Welcome, everyone, to the Change Starts Here podcast. I'm your host, Dustin Odham. And on this week's episode, we welcome Principal Amen Rahh. And I just have to say before we even start, it's one of the most exciting, fun conversations I've had in a long time. I used the word dope, I think, twice. I can't think of the last time I actually used that. But once you meet Principal Rahh, you recognize, he talks about, he wrote a book recently called Revolutionizing School Culture, the 6 principles of unlocking your school's hidden treasure. And, oftentimes we hear about people who speak of revolution and wanting to change the way things are. But when you dive into the school that he's built out in Compton, California, when you see the videos, I think at one point I encourage you guys to pause the podcast, which is probably terrible podcasting, but pause the podcast to go watch the video of a recent school that he went into in the South Bronx that's utilizing some of the principles that he talks about. And it's amazing. The passion that you see in the kids, the passion for the adults, and the passion that the adults have for the kids is unmatched. This conversation is a fun conversation. We go off on certain tangents, even in sports for a little bit, but for the most part, we stay on track because Principal Rahh is someone who is very much committed to his life's mission of revolutionizing school cultures. And he wants to help everyone in every school and every kid, and particularly every staff member, have the schools that they've always wanted to be a part of and get the results that they've always wanted to have. It's not someone that, sometimes you hear when you talk about school culture, the conversations can almost seem too soft. They can be just focused on the touchy-feely things. It almost feels where that you still have to get academic results and you're still held accountable by your local and state and federal standards. He's not someone who shies away from that, and this conversation doesn't shy away from it. So I would say, even if you're not a principal or you're not an educator listening to this is an awesome conversation. It's someone that I think you can walk away taking really great leadership tips from, but also mindsets. This is a great conversation. Like I said, as you listen to this, if you have someone in your life, I sent this video to folks who aren't even educators, that the video that I tell you guys about, the YouTube video that he just put out, because I wanted them to see what's possible for kids and what's happening in schools. And so as you're listening, if there's someone in your life that you think needs to listen to this and get to know who Amen Rahh is, please send it to them. If you're a subscriber, we thank you so much for your support. If you're not a subscriber, please pause, hit the subscribe button. We need all the support we can get, and we appreciate you being a loyal listener. Enjoy this conversation. I hope you enjoy it half as much as I did. All right, Principal Rahh, thank you so much for being here today. I am so excited to talk to you, as you can probably tell in our initial conversation.
Yeah, man, listen, I'm happy to be here, Dustin. I'm happy to be on the show. But I'm happy to, more importantly, man, talk about how we're going to revolutionize education and ultimately the world.
Absolutely. So before we get there, we're going to dive deep into that because that's not a light statement to throw around.
Right.
Who are you and what do you love about what you do?
All right, man, listen, my name is Amen Rahh. Like literally, my first name is Amen, like after you pray. I'm the youngest of 6. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a friend. And, I'm just an advocate for just making deep social impact, man. And I'm on a mission to revolutionize education, man. I was that one kid that didn't see the relevance in school. I was that one kid that didn't understand the connection. And then I kind of got on this pathway to find my hidden treasure, my hidden treasure of, if you read the book, The Alchemist, and the story of Santiago, finding his hidden treasure. And I found my hidden treasure, and that's to motivate, inspire anybody I come across to better their best every day. So that's who I am, and that's what I'm about.
So can you just tell us a little bit about your journey? So being one of 6 is a unique experience, especially in today's culture where we only have, most families are the nuclear families of 1 or 2 kids, right? What was that like? But also your journey of one of the challenges that I think of from my time in education, like I told you, I spent some time teaching out where you were, as well as St. Louis. And one of the pressures that my students felt in an all Black community was, if they wanted to be educators or aspired to be educators, it wasn't the path that was encouraged by their community, their parents, or whatever else. So I'm curious, what was your life like growing up, and how did you land here to be Principal Rahh?
Yeah, no doubt. So like anybody, like they can Google. So I'm named after my father. So my father, he actually changed his name when he got out of jail when he was younger. Like he changed his name at 24. His name was Arthur, and then he changed it to Amen Rahh after the Egyptian sun god. And then he married my mom. I mean, he had 3 other kids previous to him marrying my mom. Then he had 3 kids with my mom, and I'm the youngest of 6. So when I was born, they was gonna name me Arthur. And my mom was like, "Nah, change your name. We ain't gonna do that." So that's how I became Amen Rahh. And growing up, it's 6 of us, right? 6 kids. 5 out of the 6 are all in education. My father was a professor. I mean, you said that he was a professor actually at Cal State Long Beach. He helped develop and build the entire Black Studies department at Long Beach State. He hired the person that invented Kwanzaa, right? So follow along here. So, but when I'm growing up, man, I'm like, yo, you're a councilman, you're a teacher, all y'all are, y'all not making no money. Y'all are like, how are you this professor and all this, but we still living in the hood? Like we still like struggling. I said, no, I didn't get, so they was preaching education in my household. And I was just like, nah. So I actually was a rapper. So I was going to be a rapper, play football. Like I had it made out, play for the Dallas Cowboys, buy my mom a house, live happily ever after, you know what I mean? Go Cowboys. But
my team.
Yeah. I look, see, look how the synergy works. And, my father, I tell this story all the time. My father was incarcerated. He got incarcerated when I was a senior in high school. And he was a council member, political warfare. He got put in prison, right? Yep. My grades plummeted and I got myself together. I want to say at age 20, read the book, The Alchemist, kind of changed my life. And then education chose me. And that was when I got into education and I started to see the inequities that exist in education, right? And then that's what motivated me to become a principal, man. That was really my step into the world of education was when I became a teacher assistant.
Wow, that's crazy. So when you go from that kind of upbringing and seeing experiencing incarceration with your family, but also you went from thinking you were going to be a rapper to an educator. When you thought about your first school, we're not going to the revolution just yet. We'll get there, I promise.
Right.
You get a chance to be a principal. What was the first day like? What were you feeling that day? I mean, yeah, you got a lot of passion, but that's a big, when you get the keys handed to you, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And I take it back. Even first, I think what has helped me in my journey is I've always been an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? I've always had that kind of mindset from, I guess, rapping, selling CDs out the trunk type of atmosphere, trying to, figure it out.
You have a side hustle, basically.
Side hustle, man. It was just he was always a hustler, right? So when I just took that hustler mentality that was street and selling clothes and selling merch, and I was like, yo, I can go hustle up degrees. I can go hustle up businesses. I can go and understand equity. It just I just seen a whole nother world, right? And I was a teacher assistant, but I always knew I never could just work for somebody else. So anytime I started somewhere, I'm like, yo, I gotta get to the top of how do I get to the top here, right? Because I want to change things. So when I became a teacher, man, I became a teacher at a school that my father went to in the middle of Watts, in the middle of 4 rival gangs, right? All the kids come to this middle school after elementary. And a lot of my cousins went there, my father graduated there. And my first day, the principal gave me one of the smallest rooms and gave me all the kids in the entire school nobody wanted.
Wow.
And I used to, I'm 20 years old at this time. And I'm just like, yo, I didn't know there was until one of the veteran teachers was like, yo, you got all the kids nobody wanted. Right. And I was just like, yo, and we had a great time. Right. And then they didn't know who the principal was. They didn't have a relationship with the principal. And then one time the principal called me to come to the office to work with one of the kids around a disciplinary issue. And I said, yo, something ain't right here. So at the age of 20, I said, I get it. I got to be the principal. So that's what got me to understand. And I didn't want to be a principal anywhere else. I want to be a principal in my community. Yep. So fast forward, man, I became a principal. I just was like, yo, it's a dream come true.
So when you say, I love the fact you are not shy about saying I'm building a revolution here, right? And I would say all of our listeners to this podcast, they may not use the same strong wording, but they're all about how do I create change in myself so that I can lead and love and serve differently. And you've created that. So when you say revolution, what are we talking about from your lens?
Absolutely. So revolution is making a positive, immediate impact on yourself, your school, your community, and ultimately the world, right? It is like, if you really define revolution, it's a sudden, drastic change, right? And evolution is slow and gradual. So revolution is like, what are practical things that we could do that could turn it around overnight? Will you turn the whole thing around overnight? No, but you could turn some things around overnight, like practical things of like, hey, how can we now have career pathways for kids to understand the tech more? Like, that's something that we can implement right away. There's a whole list of programs that can do that. How can we now build relationships? Like, as a principal, as a teacher, we can be in front of our school every day getting to know kids' names. Like when I was a principal, I'm no longer a principal now, but when I was principal, I took pride with knowing every kid name. I gave myself 45 days to know every single student, over 400 kids' name in my school. If not, they get to pie me in the face in front of the whole school. To me, that's a revolutionary practice,
Yeah. So what, when I think about a revolutionary school, I'm trying to picture, like, what does that look, sound, and feel like?
Man, it looks, sound, and feel like I just had a show that just came out called Revolutionary School Culture. And we just featured a principal by the name of Dr. Travis Brown. And his school was in the South Bronx. And if you know anything about New York and you know anything about the South Bronx, I don't got to go into much further detail about the community that's in. And I swear to you, you go look at his school. He has a music studio in there. He has a barbershop in there. He has a salon in there. He has a podcast area. He has listen to this, Dustin. He has a rock climbing wall for kids in his school. He has a big slide in the school. He has his lounge area looks better than Starbucks, right? Revolutionary school culture is how you build an aspirational environment that motivates kids to want to be there more than any other place in the world.
So I'll tell you that video just, I think, dropped yesterday or the last couple of days. It is the dope, and I don't use the word dope very often. It is the dopest video I have seen when it comes to education. You can ask Abby, our producer, after this. I've already sent it to a couple of friends. I mean, like you said, Travis, he talked about something in that video about, you asked him like something about the culture, and he said something about swimming upstream or going with the stream. Do you remember that? Because I thought that was really enlightening, and it talked a little bit about the revolution I think you're trying to build.
Absolutely. So with Dr. Travis Brown, his mantra was, a lot of schools and a lot of leaders and a lot of educators go against the kid current, right? We try to fix kids. And he said, I go along with the kid current. Right. And if you know anything, it's like, I don't know if some of your audience ever went to the ocean, and, we're in California, so like ocean water. I remember one time I didn't know anything about waves. Right. And I took my wife and we went to Maui. Right. And there's this area called the Big Beach, and it had like some of the biggest waves. Right. So I went there and I'm like, I'm this big guy, I'm good. And she's like, yo, go in. And these waves are coming. And it was like subtle. So I'm walking in and I'm running in. And then this wave just comes and it's huge, right? So in my head, I'm like, all right, it's huge, but it ain't like huge, it ain't taller than me. So I figured like maybe I'd jump over the wave, right? So I was going to jump over the wave and I'm gonna be cool. Like, you're in the pool. I jumped, I went against the kid current. I went against the current, jumped, and that water snatched me up, Dustin, and slammed me against the ground. And I got up and ran out the ocean, right? And I'm saying that story is because what Travis Brown was saying is that was correlation to many schools. They go against it, and they always are having this friction. It'd be that kid, like they can't be their authentic self, and you're trying to fix them and try to assimilate them or try to form them into something that they're maybe not. He says, let me find out your passions. Let me find out the path that you want to go, and let me motivate you and educate you along the way. And I think that was made his school revolutionary.
So one thing that I know that you believe in, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if I'll get the words right, but it was clear in this video that Dr. Brown also believes in this. Oftentimes when I've seen inspiring principals creating environment for kids that are trying to inspire them to greatness, it can come at the expense of the adults in the building. Meaning, if you're talking to you as like Principal Rahh, like your teachers, it's all about kids first. You just got to do it. Suck it up, kids first. But like you said, that teacher's lounge is the coolest thing I've seen in so long. I think you even had like a private room where you could get like wireless charging for your phones. Like it's crazy.
Yep.
What's your thoughts there on how do we make sure it's a place that kids want to come, but it's also a place where adults want to come and thrive?
You nailed it right there. Like as a leader, one of the things, so the school I built, like the school I founded, I was the youngest founding principal in LAUSD history. I opened my school about 7 years ago, 7 years ago. I was 28 years old. I'm 35 now. And one of the key things was, how do you build an organizational culture for your staff to want to be there, right? And you've seen in the video we dropped with Dr. Travis Brown, he created, like, you see the lounge, everything you need is in there. You have a couch, you have a private room, you have refrigerator, you have microwave, you have working air conditioning. You have so much there that says, I'm taking all the barriers away and I'm allowing you to be a professional. And I think the revolution of leadership is around how much do you love on your staff and treat them like the highest level of a professional, right? Like if you see lawyers in the industry, my friend is a lawyer, like they have retreats and they're really building relationships. They're having golf tournaments. They're saying we value you. And I think that's what Travis, myself, and great leaders do, is saying, you know what? Let's value each other and let's value each other in this space and let's be a family while doing it and let's elevate. So I think that's what really it means. And I call it the micro unit of change. The leader, if you pour love into your teachers, then your teachers will pour love into the students and students will pour love back into the world.
That's awesome. So can we, the video is amazing. I think maybe one other time out of 2.5 years of doing this podcast, if I said, hit pause on this conversation and go Google it, what do they need to Google just to find it? Can they just Google your name, Principal Rahh, or is there a name of the video series? They
can Google the name, but if you go to like YouTube and just type in Revolutionary School Culture, it will pop up. It's episode 1. And it's
so dope. I can't believe I keep using the word dope. I'm not that cool to be able to use it. So, all right, we're as great as Dr. Brown and his school is. I want to talk about you and what you're building. And so, you've written a book, correct?
Yep.
Revolutionary School Culture: 6 Principles to Unlock Your School's Hidden Treasure. Can we dive into like those 6 principles in a way? Is that okay?
Yeah. No doubt. So. Go ahead. I don't know if you're saying.
No, I just like, where does it start? What's the first principle of like, when you think about, I'm trying to build this culture, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so traveling across the country and meeting leaders, and when I built my school, what you will see is there's a misalignment between the North Star of schools. Like, for example, you was in education. You can go to any school. I challenge you. When you go visit a school, 70% of the staff there don't know the mission of the school. They don't know the mission. They don't know where they're going. And you know what? Take it even further. Some leaders don't even know the mission of their school that they're running. Like I do workshops with leaders all the time. And I say, okay, how many of you guys can explain the mission of your school in less than 10 seconds? And I said, without Googling, like they're going Google the name of the school, try to figure out the mission. The mission is a thesis statement. So principle 1 is about setting the stage. And it sets the stage with 3 things. What's your year-end goal? Like as a principal, it's the end of the school year. Fast forward. How do you determine if you won or if you lost as a principal? What's that number 1 thing that is your year-end goal? Number 2 is, how do you develop a mantra that helps you and motivates you and your staff to work towards the year-end goal? And number 3 is, how do you create a metric that you can do a data cycle every 4 to 6 weeks that lets you know that you're on pace to achieve that goal?
How is that received sometimes? I have found, I did school turnaround, so I helped create the Office of Innovation and turnaround in St. Louis public schools. And, what I found is sometimes you have folks who are all data folks, and sometimes they struggle with the relational heart side. And when you talk too much heart, they check out. Or you have a lot of folks who are on mission, right? Who, once you start showing data, they get a little bit jaded by what we're doing there. How do you marry those two so both groups can kind of continue to take steps ahead?
I'm glad you said that, because that goes straight into principle 2. And that's going to, how do you build a high performing team? Yep. Right. And because the reality, listen, I'm big in sports. I don't know about you, Dustin, but like I'm a Laker fan, right? And especially Kobe, Shaq era, like that's it. And what I tell the school leaders and who's that data person or who's that relational person, that's great. Everybody has a role. Derek Fisher had a role for the Lakers. Rick Fox, no matter how much I hated sometimes what he would do, he had a role.
Shoot the
right?
three.
But they don't make Robert Ory, Big Shot Rob had a role. And what I say to that is, what if the Lakers had 5 Shaqs on the team? Did they need 5 Shaqs? No, who was going to bring the ball up? Who was going to shoot the free throw? So what I'm saying is, okay, you're the culture person, but you don't need 5 culture people. Or you're the data person. You don't need. So what I say for the leaders, how do we now, 1, organize your team, and number 2, mobilize your team?
Yep.
And with high performing team, it's a structure we developed called RSL. What's the results you want with your team? What's the skills that's needed to get those results? And L is leverage. How do you leverage the skills to get to those results?
I love it. All right. So what's the next step after I have that?
Yeah. So now you got a high performing team. Yep. Now you got to get to step 3 and develop a constructive environment. And constructive work environment is, how do you have a culture of a great organizational culture and a great school culture that has the policies that's needed with PBIS, positive behavior interventions and supports. And you really outline the infrastructure of your philosophy and your core values and your expectations at your school. So once you have core 3, which is your constructive environment, then you can go to number 4, which is then your aspirational environment. And then this is how you develop the walls of your school. How do you create a structure? Like at my school, we create a cascade of relationships. And what I mean by that is, if you think of a triangle that's reversed, right? We started with something that's called family. We called all our assemblies family, right? Family is a way where all of our kids come together every Monday morning for 30 minutes to be inspired, to be updated, and to be acknowledged for the great work that they're doing. After family, we had something that's called, typically schools call them advisories or homeroom. After lunch, we moved it and we called it kinship, right? Kinship. Kinship is automatically saying we have family kinship. Oh, we're part of something, right? We're part of something together. After that, we developed a house system similar to Harry Potter that had like culturally relevant, and we got kids to want to belong. And then we gamified the whole entire thing. So we gamified them competing with their attendance, their grades, their civic responsibility, and financial entrepreneurship, or next generation financial teaching, in which we call it. And then that yielded us to having 0 fights in 3 years and 2 back-to-back 100% graduation rates.
That is nuts. The house thing that I know you talked about first, but being able to see a quick video also to see what that looks like in Dr. Brown's, like, to me, that is amazing. Like, just to walk in every day, know that I am a part of that crew, and that crew is about positive, uplifting things. Like that was the one, I would say, when I was a teacher, the one area that we struggled was one of many, but like one of the ones that I noticed is, where's the peer pressure to want to choose the right things?
Yep.
Right. Because like we're all kids. Like I was a kid, like the school I went to had some of that peer pressure, nowhere close to what you're trying to build, which is why you keep calling it a revolution, as it should be. But how do we develop in all schools, but particularly the schools that you were serving in, that positive, still that team, I want to be a part of something, but I'm going to go get something together kind of culture?
Yeah. And what's beautiful about at least my story and where I come from is, you start to understand the psychology of why kids like myself or others will want to be in a gang, or will want to hate on each other, or even want to unfortunately take somebody else's life, is because of one of the emotional regulation. A lot of kids make long-term decisions based on short-term emotions. Yep. But a lot of times media, it makes it look sexy. It makes doing the wrong thing looks good, right? It makes, oh my gosh, you did something bad, you get all this attention, right? Like you go to schools, they all know the bad kids, right? Like They all know that. But how do we now say, you know what? Doing the right thing is cool. Being the right thing is cool. Having dreams are cool. You can be cool. Like being a principal is cool. Right. Like the way I talked to you was the way I talked to my staff, was the way I talked to my kids. I was fully my authentic self. And I said, kids was like, I didn't know a principal could be like that. And I'm saying, yes, you can, right? Like, you don't have to just, always be like this. You can be a real human being. And I think that is the revolution of saying, you know what? It's possible to be you and still be great.
How long, that was a question I wanted to dive deeper with you, is how long does creating a house system like that take to really have significant roots, right? Where people are showing up ready to find their house or like be a part of a house. Like how long does that take?
Can you believe it or not, it doesn't take that long.
Really?
Like to get the excitement and to get kids one of the things I work with schools across the country is like how to create a moment to spark a movement. And the house system, the launch, we call it the launch, right? We get schools to create their launch and we build up to their launch. And once they get the launch, the goal is, the metric of success is have over 80% of the entire school know what house they're in and be able to have a chant, be able to have a mantra and structure it, right? Once you get them, that's the bait. They're already hooked because culturally, we all want to be part of something, whether it's a golf country club, no matter if it's the $1 Billion Boys Club, we all want to be part, our local church, we want to be part of something. So in the school, they're there 6 hours. If you create something for kids to want to be a part of, now you just point them in the right direction. Oh man, it takes off quick.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. So we got through the 4. What's number 5?
All right. So number 5, right? So you built all that great culture and all that great stuff. Now, number 5, you have to create a culture centered around data now. Like you can't do all this and not have data be a part of it, but you need those structures there first to now look at the data with the right and correct eye and measure what matters, right? A lot of schools don't measure what matters, right? Like they're measuring all these other high stakes tests and this and that. And traditionally, where has that gotten us? Right. Traditionally, it's gotten us to where we're at now. So the whole point of revolution is changing what we measure. And we do that by the 80-20. We put 80% focus on 20% of the things that we feel is making the biggest problems. And the biggest problems that we felt was the lack of love in our school, the lack of a sense of belonging, and the lack of self-efficacy and growth mindset. So we focused on that and our numbers went crazy, right?
Have you ever heard of Hip Hop Congress? No. It was a group. So one of my buddies, who was just a phenomenal teacher in St. Louis, had started something called Hip Hop Congress, where he, taught his kids English through the power of hip hop and writing. It's phenomenal. Oh. And he and I used to always dream big because we loved data, but we were always trusting that it's about love and heart. And we could never figure out, like, how do you create a metric around love? You just said something that is so clear and so powerful, but often it gets put aside because you're like, oh, that's kind of soft. That's cute, Principal Rahh. Like, how do you measure that? What does that look like? How do you guys make sure you go after that and succeed in that?
Yep. So big shout outs to one of the principals I work with, brother of mine. His name is Akbar Cook, principal at Westside High School in Newark, New Jersey. He wrote a book called Focus on the Love. I had it somewhere. Yeah, Focus on the Love. And after reading that book and after doing naturally the work, we make qualitative or things that feel qualitative, we have to quantify it. And we have to have a metric of success to determine, are we winning at this love thing, right? And are we losing? And I think that has to be quantified. And for us, we quantify it, of course, with not referrals. We quantified it by what's the percentage of kids that were in extracurricular programs that we brought to the school? Well, like a lot of times, after school, it's like, go home, get the heck up out of here. Yeah. We quantify love of how many kids want to be to school, how many kids wanted to come to school, and how many kids want to stay at school. And that was really like how we determined it.
Did y'all have one of the unique things that my privilege didn't allow me to understand when I went to go teach was I taught trigonometry one of the years and then have to have my kids stay after. And I'll never remember one of my students telling me, Mr. O, I'm all in staying after, but if I miss that 3:30 bus or whatever, I got to walk across that neighborhood back there and I can't do that. Yep. Is that the same life that your kids have to deal with sometimes?
1000%, sometimes all the time.
So that's my question. How, I was still processing that. So like I would drive him, but that's not systematic. And if I was principal, I don't know how I would solve that for all the kids. How do you help work around that when you have a school that's in a situation kind of like that?
Yeah. So there's no one size fit all, right? There's no one solution. But for us, what we did was we worked with nonprofits in the community to help support us with our after school programming, because most kids are doing it because they don't feel safe. Yep. They don't feel safe. So when you create a partnership, which I like to call it just a public-private partnership with schools and community-based organizations. It allowed now kids to know, oh, their parent may know somebody from that organization. All right, yeah, you can take them home. So now it's not just on you as a teacher, right? It's a village. Like we always say, like it takes a village to raise and educate our young people. Our schools must prioritize the village. So we developed community-based organizations and community-based partnerships that made it feel like it was home after school. So and parents knew people from there, and those people had their insurance taken care of, so they was able to take a lot of kids.
So, I've got a lot of principal friends, and people are listening. Hopefully, are a lot of aspiring principals or educators who are principals. A lot of people talk about, I want to have good partnerships in the community, but man, you've got, I have a couple of the highlights on here of your record is pretty cool in this area with the Clippers getting a basketball court, Think Rots making the music program, Planet Fitness giving you a weight room, FBI helping you build an academy. What advice can you give principals to help their paradigms go bigger or get clearer? To have like life-changing partnerships, not just like I go to this person, they kind of help us a little bit here and there.
Yep. So for aspiring leaders or for current leaders, you must leverage social media and leverage the story that exists in your building. See, the work in the past was, hey, I just want to do the work, and the work only lived in the four walls of your building. For the partnerships that we gained, it was, listen, Dustin, that was all through social media. Like the Clippers found my story, like just a quick story. I had 9 months to build a school without the structure being built. Like school opened August 13th. The building wasn't done till August 8th. So I had to develop like a school without a school, right? And I leveraged social media. I was just talking about the vision. Didn't know how the heck it was going to happen. But I said, I had a dream and I had a vision of like, I want a firefighter academy. I want an FBI academy. Because we had kids coming from the hood that just had horrible relationships with authority, and rightfully so in some cases in law enforcement. But I said, how can we bridge this? So it's like, let me reach out social media. Somebody said, I know the captain of the Los Angeles Fire Department. Boom. They sent them the page. They seen my videos. They was like, I want to work with that school. I love what they're trying to do. Boom. For free. Had the captain of the Los Angeles Fire Department have a pathway for kids to bridge to become firefighters. Same thing happened with the FBI. I was like, it'd be dope. I don't want to just be this. I want FBI. I want CSI. I want all that cool stuff. I didn't even know they had a teen academy. You know what I mean? Then boom, I found out through social media. Somebody was like, he's trying to do that. Like, I hear about the stool. Boom. We had a year-long 10-week program sponsored by the FBI. They brought CIA agents teaching the kids about contraband, fingerprint, all these cool things, right? Yep. So this was the way we leveraged social media to tell your story, to control a narrative, because yes, Dustin, we are all about proficiency and academic excellence and all those great things, but we also forget about how do we get there? We get there through really great partnerships, really great experiences that motivates kids to now want to better their best in all aspects of their life.
Yeah, I love that power of partnership and experiences. We had a gentleman on named Chip Heath a while back, and him and his brother Dan Heath wrote one of many really cool books, but one of them was called The Power of Moments. Mm-hmm. It's about how you can create experiences that have life-changing impact with your organization. Do you have a philosophy like that? Is that part of when you help schools build out their year, are you helping them really think through some of those key anchor experiences so that you get the momentum and the impact that you want? And if so, what are those?
Yeah, it's like that flywheel effect, right? It's like, again, it goes back to these micro moments that will catapult academic or cultural movements within your school, right? Yep. And schools that I work with, rather it be launching a house system and then boom, 6 weeks, we're having a pep rally right after it, right? Yeah. And if the pep rally is around which house had the best attendance and which house had the best GPA, which house had the best grades, right? So now these are micro moments that catapult not only the kids, but the entire school community to the next benchmark. Right. Yep. And a lot of times we got to understand society has us all on instant gratification. Think about social media. Like we all want things quick. We want things in bite size. We want it fast. It's the attention economy. Right. Like if we understand how the economy has evolved, we've been in the attention economy for so long. So now we also have to figure out, how do we keep the attention of the youth? How do we keep the attention of the parents? One thing that we did, Dustin, was called the ethical bribe on social media. Parents will come in, we will tell them, like our Facebook page, like our Instagram page, go comment and get into our raffle. The reason why we did that was we wanted to be high on the algorithm for them. It showed back in that, if you like something, if you comment, if you like hit the little ringer, boom, now you're in a raffle. And the reason why we wanted that was when we push out content or announcements, we wanted to make sure that it was visible for our parents or guardians who were on social media that use that more than they use email. So that was something that we took and how we made momentum.
So is part 6, did I touch on it with the community partnership? I hope I did, because I was trying to set you up, but did I miss it?
Well, so actually you got the data, and part 6 is actually now teaching and learning. Right? Like, so you set up your culture. Like, Dustin, I don't know about you, but for me, I have never seen, like, there's not enough great instruction that can overcome a toxic culture. You know what I mean? Like you can lesson plan for years, come up with the best lesson. But if you don't know how to touch the ethos of a kid or a parent or somebody in that school community, that lesson is going to most likely fail. And I think it's really important for us to like set those parameters up. And then now it makes teaching and learning a lot easier. If you're a presenter, if you know that you are going to a place that feels like home, oh man, you walking in there and you giving them all kind of gems freely. You just like giving it to them. But when you're at this, sometimes you're at a place, you don't know, sometimes for me as a speaker, you know, you got to vibe up the crowd. You see somebody laugh or you see somebody give you something, you're like, oh yeah, we about to really get busy, right? Yeah. Versus somebody that's just looking at you, like that is how culture work and energy works, and the transfer of energy. So we want the transfer of energy to be this great culture that transfer to great academic excellence and great academic outcomes.
What's the most, I think I know what this answer is, but what's the most common pushback you get from skeptics about your work or, you know, the principles that you're teaching?
Yeah, you know, I would say that the most common pushback is the pushback of the lack of self-awareness. And what I would say that is, there's many leaders and many people that don't know that they are, they have been so traumatized and re-traumatized and burnt out that they can't acknowledge it, right? Like they're like, yo, this is how it's been for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And they're fighting to hold on to that, right? They resist that type of change. But honestly, it's not about and I'm glad you asked that question. A lot of times it's not about the why for change. A lot of people don't know how. So I think like the point of like even my show and my work and the principles is, how do we give you practical skills so you can know how to do it? Because I meet teachers all the time and they want to do it. A lot of times they want to do it, but they are not confident in the how. And a lot of times the how is too far. It's like, you know, it's like almost somebody who's trying to, you know, transform their body. And you've been eating horrible for 40 years. And you know, the hardest thing to do is now change your eating habits. You know, it's the right thing to do. You know, you want to do it. You know, all those great things, but you like that sandwich, right? Or you like pizza. You like that pizza, those tacos, right? Like, so I like to equate it to, yo, you have a good heart. You are there. You are that. And the problem is, see, when you're doing the diet for yourself, you only impact yourself with your bad diet. When you're a teacher and you have a bad diet, you don't only impact yourself, you're impacting the lives of others. And that's why we have to touch the soul of the teachers, because to let them know that it's not just about you. Yes, you can have a bad diet and that hurts you, but having a bad diet in education, it impacts the health, the physical, spiritual, and academic health of every kid that you come across. And that's why we have to change it.
So in every state, I'm in Florida right now. I travel a bunch, meet with different principals and superintendents. And I was in a meeting yesterday, and the turnaround world has been my comfort zone in my career, just being in schools that are within challenge situations that have to get results quickly. I think the challenge I have, I was talking to this awesome middle school principal yesterday who has been given 1 year to improve all the scores, however they're measured success, whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, the challenge with that is, like, you and I both know that you've got to build culture. You've got to do the right things. And so I can imagine, maybe not that principal, because I think she gets what you're talking about, but there's got to be she's got to move the staff, and there's got to be plenty of staff saying, if we waste waste, right? Because I've heard this before. 6 weeks or whatever, building our houses and not doing a ton of teaching and learning and not doing all the pedagogy and everything. We might not have a job by the end of the year.
Yeah.
What's your recommendation for schools that are in kind of those dire situations?
Yep.
One, to have the courage to follow this, because I think it's right. But two, how can you adjust some of your thinking, or do you need to be able to get impact within that year that keeps them going and the momentum going forward?
Yep. So like this is a protocol that you I'm sure you know, right? You identify what is really the problem, the central problem, and why those scores are the way they are, right?
Yep.
Like we were audited, and typically low performing schools are really geared around culture, but it may be the culture of academic excellence, it may be the culture of technology, a lot of times we just think culture of just like fun, good stuff, qualitative, but it's like, what's the culture of literacy at your school? What's the culture of and the whole point of having a great culture of relationships is that it builds you an infrastructure on how to attack all those micro cultures that exist. So what I always say is most of the time for low performing schools, it is actually the mindset, not the actual skill set for the kids, right? It is actually the culture of alignment. I assure you probably can go back to the school and say, okay, last year, what was the mission? Going back to say, what was the year-end goal? And if we say we're going to develop this house system, the whole point of the house system is to get us to this year-end academic metric. And this is how we're going to, so we identify the problem. Kids' mindset is not, I assure you, if you looked at their test, they probably was going in there and just like, go through the test and it's all right. It don't matter. Your grade don't matter, whatever the case may be. Right? Versus saying, hey, these are micro supports throughout the year that will allow the house system to flourish as the vehicle to academic change. So that's the theory of change right there. And then now we execute, boom, boom, boom. I will mobilize the staff and say, our year-end goal is we want 10% growth in everything. Math, English, language usage. We're going to use the house system as a vehicle to get there. That's our theory of change. And I, as a leader, will have to be okay to live, win, draw, or fail with that vehicle. That's my win or loss, and I will be transparent with the staff. If we lose, and y'all follow me on this, if we lose, I'm on the hook, me. But if we win, we are all celebrating, and we're all doing this. And that's how I would take it.
I love it. I could talk to you for hours. I promised I would let you out of here by the top of the hour. I'm thinking I'm going to need you to come back, especially how often are you going to be dropping episodes on your YouTube?
Yeah, so we're dropping them bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks.
Okay. So I think after we have a few more, we may want to circle back if you have time for us. Yeah. And let's maybe even bring on some of those guys with you just to have a conversation about how you're building this culture. Because if I can be helpful with this revolution, this is something that we fight for. And I think all of our listeners are fighting for, is creating culture of belonging where every an adult goes to school knowing that family needs them, that world needs them, and they're excited to go to work. I'd love to be a part of this with you.
No, that'd be great, man. And that's really, if we work together in different ways, the whole goal is to inspire others. Like, I'm sure you go around principals, they don't know what's happening in other buildings.
Yep.
They're so caught in their building. They don't even like going to professional development. They'd be up on professional development looking at their computers all day, still stuck in the building. So our videos, our show is to really inspire leaders to say, oh my God, I never thought about a crew system. Or I never thought about how flags are painting my walls to look like we're under the sea, right? I never thought about those different things, and hopefully inspire others to be revolutionary in their school community.
Can we talk about the hidden bookcase door of your boy Dr. Brown's room? That it looks like the bookcase comes out and you go back into the studio, like little details like that. Like that could be the only thing he did, and that would be game changing. Everybody would talk about it in the entire school. Like it's just, like you said, looking for the littlest of details of how to make something cool or stand out is a game changer.
Yeah, one of the books that I love is called The Magic Kingdom, the secret, the 7 keys to Disneyland success, right? Okay. And one of their principles for greatness in regards of their organizational culture was the overwhelming level of attention to detail, right? And as a leader, that's what Trav did. That's what Dr. Brown did. He said, yo, I'm not just going to put a studio in here. I'm going to make it unique. I'm gonna put a hidden bookcase in our library to open it. To then that's how you walk into it, right? Like little things at my door, like at my school, like I put our logo on every door, right? But I also little things like this with my staff. I bought them all professional business cards, right? Like I even my to my office assistant, like you got a business card. Like I want you to understand that you matter, right? Yeah. And that's those are little things, man. And anybody could do. Anybody can do.
I love it. Is there something before I ask you our final closing questions or rapid fire round? Is there anything you want to say either about the principles in your book or just like the revolution itself to encourage folks before we move on?
Yeah, I like to talk a little bit about not only the show that we're hosting, but our next venture. The next venture, I resigned from my role as a principal because my mission was to revolutionize the educational experience as a founding principal. I like to believe with what the magic that we did, being an Amazon bestselling author, all these great things, we accomplished that. But I want to tell you this, Dustin, this is something I found out through my experience. My dream grew from wanting to revolutionize the educational experience from kids to now wanting to revolutionize the educational system. Mm-hmm. And what I found is, and we have a really big problem with the $1.7 trillion student loan debt crisis we have. We have a big problem with kids and the lack of motivation across the country. We have a big problem with the traditional academic systems and not teaching like just basic accounting, basic FICO, basic financial literacy and different things like that. So it got me to start an ed tech company called K-12 Crypto. And we have a company called K-12 Crypto that allows kids to learn and earn cryptocurrency based off of metrics that they meet in school, but they don't get access to the money until they graduate from high school. So we are revolutionizing PBIS and allowing kids to have a deposit-only wallet and learn how to build on Roblox, or learn how to drop an LP on Spotify, or learn basic equations, go through our modules similar to Khan Academy and get paid to do it, but you don't get access to that money until you graduate from high school, or you can use it for business, your life, or college. And this is our way of saying, we could revolutionize and change the future of work and the future of learning and the future of safety in our society because of the way kids react to different things. So we're excited about that.
I love that. All right. I'm going to get you out of here, I promise. So rapid fire. First one, what habit or discipline, and it could be habits or disciplines, do you utilize on a every day or every week to make you the best version of yourself or to bring the best version of yourself to everybody?
Man, that's a great question. I like to say, man, I'm a dreamer, man. Like dreaming keeps me grounded. And the reason why I say dreaming is because I feel that that's one of my best qualities I serve for people is to inspire them to see something beyond their own dreams. On how big something can get and how you can be inspired. Like the principals I work with, we'll get on in one of our sessions, they leave always feeling inspired, feeling great, feeling like, I didn't think like that. So the ability to dream and think about practical dreams that can come true. I think and how I practice that is I consistently dream and execute on my own dreams. Like I had a dream of a TV show and I said, we have a camera here, let's do it. Right. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. Can I ask, did you know how to direct and produce before you dropped this latest video?
Never.
Oh my God. That makes me want to throw up because I looked at it and I was like, man, I'd like to be able to do that. Yeah. I'm sure he's got so much talent. Now I have no excuse because you're like, oh no, I didn't touch it. I just figured it out.
Figure it out. Like, the answers are we have a team. Don't get me wrong. It's not like a one-man show, but we have a team. But what I'm saying is the ability for YouTube University, if you have the skills of critical thinking and being motivated and disciplined, the answers are out here.
Yep. All right. I think I know the answer to this because you've dropped the name of it twice, but feel free to use a different book if you want. What's a book or books that you've either read recently or throughout your career that have made a huge impact that you want other people to check out?
Definitely The Alchemist. Right. The Alchemist.
You knew what I was talking about.
Yeah. The Alchemist is the story of Santiago. I'm looking at my bookshelf right now, but the story of Santiago is my go-to. What else is? Oh my God, my second favorite book, I will say, is Have you ever heard of a book called Chop Wood, Carry Water?
I have not.
All right. So there's a book, man. I would love for you to read it. It's called Chop Wood. I'm looking at it. I must have it in my other library. But
All right, I'll order it right now. Literally, I'm getting my phone out. Don't you love technology? I will order it right now. So it's at home when I get home.
Yeah, it's a game changer. It's called Chop Wood, Carry Water. Boom.
Okay.
It's like, and it's falling in love with the process of becoming great. This is the book that changed the game for me. Chop Wood, Carry Water.
All right.
How to fall in love with the process of becoming great. It is a game changer.
I love it. All right. It is purchased, and I will follow back up with you after I read it, and we can talk about that. Next question. I'm super interested to know where you land on this one. We always ask, whether you're driving for you, I guess, in traffic, being out in LA, I think that's all you have,
Right.
or working out, running, something. What music's on your playlist? Who are the artists? What are the songs? However you want to take that.
All right. First, all-time favorite artist is J. Cole. Okay. J. Cole is...
What's his best album? Forest Hills we going with? Or are you gonna
Forest Hill? Yeah, you can't. I mean, that's a tough one though. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, we won't go down that path. We may go too dark for our listeners for that one.
But yeah, J. Cole. I'm listening to some new up and coming artists. There's a young guy named LaRussell from Northern California that's on my playlist. I have another guy from Northern California. His name is Simba. He's on the playlist, and I like to listen. And then actually, there's a Christian rapper. His name is Kieran the Light.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, Kieran the Light. If you are in I don't know your audience, but if you have a savior and you are really into hip hop too, but positive, Kieran the Light, you will not be disappointed.
All right. Last question. You're around a lot of people who are influencing folks and motivating folks. What is the best piece of advice that you've come across lately that just hit you right in the chest that, either for yourself or you want everyone else to know and think about?
I would say two. One is, one of my mentors, his name is Dennis McKees. He's over an organization called Off School Grounds. I actually had a chain on Off School Grounds. It's a coalition of principals across the country. We meet actually every Thursday, and we talk about how we can help each other solve the problems in education. And one of the things, I'm sure you get it, when you're talking with leaders, superintendents, district leaders, they will say this sometimes. It's like, we're flying the plane and building it at the same time, right? We're flying and building at the same time. And somebody said that, and I was close to Dr. McKeezy. He said, I think it's about time we stop saying we're flying and building at the same time, because most of the times it always ends with somebody's crashing and burning. Right. Or the pilot jumping out right before a crash and everybody's on there crashing and burning. And what that meant for me was what he said. He followed up. He said, today's problems exist because people of yesterday didn't solve them. And he said, tomorrow's problems that will exist will be because we didn't solve them today. Yep. And that quote for me always hits me, because I'm like, what am I doing today to help solve so there will be less problems for tomorrow? And that's what I live on right now.
That's awesome. Well, as you look at the time, we are about a minute out. I think we did it. I cannot believe starting this conversation, there was 0% chance I would be able to honor that promise to you, but we got lucky. And I hope and you can tell by my enthusiasm, I am excited about what you're doing. I'm excited about the different forms of media, from social media to your YouTube channel, to your book, to your speaking. We need to stay in touch. I'd love to be a part of helping you grow this impact, because I think our hearts and heads are aligned to what needs to happen, and our organization definitely is as well.
Man, let's do it, man. Let's do it. It's all about collaboration, man, and partnering up and doing something phenomenal and revolutionary.
Yeah, well, I love that. So I'm from North Florida. So where I grew up is all about college football. So I didn't become a pro football fan until I moved to Dallas for college. And so all my friends were Cowboys fans. So that's how I got to be a Cowboys fan, which is not as fun. So growing up, I'm a diehard Deion Sanders fan. And so he went to Florida State's where I grew up. So I started watching them, but I became a real fan later, and it's not been fun. Since I've been a real fan, I think I'm their curse, I'll be honest. But hopefully that breaks here soon.
Yeah, hopefully, man. I was a Cowboys fan, early 90s. They used to call me Tutu because I first seen Emmitt Smith run at my grandparents' house, and I didn't say 22. I said Tutu.
Yeah.
Then that's when they start to call me Tutu. So, man, I'm right there with you. Our time is coming. Our time is coming soon. So,
Yeah.
No, it's on. I'm actually be in Florida in January doing some work out there in Miami-Dade County. But yeah, man, let's figure it out.
Let's be in touch. I appreciate you very much. Go enjoy your day. Thanks for making time for us. We'll be in touch. Okay.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
All right. See ya. Please support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, podcast on Apple or Spotify, and help us celebrate the beautiful, messy work of shaping human potential.